A former member of Turkish parliament, now a visiting scholar with Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, Garo Paylan, sees a golden opportunity for establishing peace for Mr. Trump. He says the Democrats have laid the groundwork for peace in South Caucasus, and if Mr. Trump gives it a final personal push, he will take the laurels for the peace treaty. I will challenge this claim face to face with him. Mr. Paylan, do you believe that it is politically, economically expedient for the US or even significant enough to bring about peace in South Caucasus?
As you know, Trump claimed Biden ruined the world. Even the world is on the brink of the Third World War, and he will just be in the White House to bring peace to the world. And he even said, I'll just broker a peace between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours. But it's not likely to happen. And it will require more time to broker a peace in between Russia and Ukraine. Even Gaza ceasefire is fragile, that's what I believe. But there is a low-hanging fruit, which I'm trying to propose this to Mr. Trump and his team. And if really, Mr. Biden and his team really worked hard on the peace in the South Caucasus, and everything is ready. And there were bilateral talks between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and most of the issues are already, there is a deal on most of the issues between Armenia and Azerbaijan. What is lacking is a big power, really, to make a last push. And it can be Mr. Trump. And Mr. Trump, if he swoops in, and he can broker this peace. Because Mr. Aliyev and Mr. Erdogan for years have been waiting some kind of an offer and to elevate their image to the world stage. Because I know that type. Autocrats always, of course, they are repressive in their country, but they want to be respected in the world stage. And Mr. Biden was reluctant to give that respect. He didn't call Mr. Aliyev, he didn't put his personal way on it. He did it, but it was too little too late. Just 2 weeks before the elections, he wrote a letter, but he was already a lame duck. Now it is time to Mr. Trump to swoop in, just put his personal way on it. Maybe if he brokers this peace, he can get a Nobel Prize out of that peace as well.
There are at least 3 major forces exerting influence on Aliyev: Ankara, Moscow, and Washington. And they all drag the cart in different directions when it comes to peace in South Caucasus. Why do you believe that Washington's influence will be decisive?
Because Washington has the resources and to broker this peace. Erdogan, let's say Turkish economy is vulnerable. For years after the 2020 war, Erdogan has so many times sent messages to Washington that I'm ready to play a constructive role, even open the Turkish-Armenian border, but he never saw any credit out of it. And Aliyev always bought Erdogan's silence. He always sent some more $1 billion to Ankara. Even Sokar just announced another investment plan to Ankara, so he bought Erdogan's silence. But if Mr. Trump offers a deal with Erdogan, let's say, if you open this border, I'll put less tariffs to Ankara. Let's play just make this deal happen together. If Mr. Trump calls Erdogan like this, even Mr. Rubio and Mr. Fidan, Turkish foreign minister, had a conversation about it, and peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan was the second issue. This is a good sign that this shows US is interested in this peace deal. Second of all, Mr. Trump will not be reluctant to call Mr. Aliyev. He speaks autocrats' language, and he can easily say, get this deal done and get these offers. If not, or if you dare to attack to Armenia, this is the price you are going to pay. There are so many minuses with the Trump era. Of course, so many people perceive he's not a Democrat, but there are some risks about the Trump era, but there might be some advantages. He's a strong man, and he speaks the language of the autocrats, and he can call Mr. Erdogan and Aliyev and broker this peace in 24 hours.
I couldn't possibly sit down with a former member of parliament of Turkey and not inquire of the fate of Armenia-Turkey relations. A direct dialogue was recently established for normalization of relations after 2 failed attempts with previous Armenian governments. Armenia and Turkey appointed Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of Armenia, Ruben Rubinyan, and Ambassador Serdar Kılıç, respectively, as special representatives for normalization process. Not much progress in sight, though. Turkey pursues upgrading customs with the EU. Erdogan, as you mentioned, speaks the language of political deals. What can our international partners offer, Mr. Erdogan, instead of reopening the borders or deblocking Armenia?
As you know, Erdogan has been ruling Turkey for 23 years, and during his reign, in this first 10 years, he had good relations with EU, and Turkey was benefiting from EU. But unfortunately, during the last 10 years, we always felt the headwinds, and Turkish economy is suffering. And in Erdogan's team, there are so many actors who want to heal this unhealthy relationship with the West. And they have some demands, let's say customs union modernization. And Turkish exports, it's going to boost Turkish exports to European Union. And Turkey so much wants this customs union modernization. And more than that, visa liberalization with EU, those kind of demands. And with the US, there are so many issues to be spoken about trade and economy. So if Trump just initiates this and EU can follow and have just proposed some offers to Erdogan in return of Erdogan playing a constructive role in the South Caucasus. Erdogan is already ready. What lacks is only some Western powers to propose some things to Erdogan.
Why do you believe that a political deal or offering something to Erdogan will be more effective than exerting pressure?
This is the New World Disorder. Welcome. And this is, unfortunately, in this New World Disorder, now only transactional relationships will matter. And Erdogan is a transactional leader. He's an opportunist. And if he always, let's say during this Sweden accession process, he again offered that I'm ready to open this border, but Mr. Biden was reluctant to give him anything. But Mr. Trump is a deal maker. He says, I'm a deal maker, and he knows how to broker deals. And if he puts something on the table which will be a peanut for him, and he says, let's broker this peace, let's do some investment, let's do this middle corridor together from Europe to the Turkey, then Armenia, then Azerbaijan, even to the Central Asia together, which is going to mitigate the Russian, let's say, influence. Because for Mr. Trump, there might be, the Russia-Ukraine peace deal might be pursued as a minus for the Western world. But this peace deal will be pursued as a plus for the Western world, which is going to mitigate the Russian influence. So there are so many wins. But we need to explain this to Mr. Trump. There is an easy win here, which is going to make you just have the Nobel Prize. More than that, you will take Turkey on board, Armenia on board, Azerbaijan, even Kazakhstan on board, and so many entrepreneurs are going to benefit from this. So many firms are going to invest in South Caucasus, Armenia, Turkey, and beyond.
A century-old scar from genocide versus economic and political expediency. The Armenian government has made up their mind. The scale of history goes down. Behind me, a few dozen meters away, is Margara checkpoint, ready to receive traffic from Turkey. Ambassadors have been here and witnessed this cemented and wired determination on the side of the Armenian government to receive traffic from Turkey. Turkey gives mixed signals. Under harsh internal criticism, the Armenian government keeps their tone low on reparations, even national symbolism when they talk to Turkey, obviously in the hope that this will help move forward the normalization. Do you believe that this approach, these concessions or this willingness to concessions actually affects Erdogan's approach?
Yes, it affects. I know that in Ankara, because as you know, this border has been closed for a century, not 2-3 decades. It was open just for a while. Then, two neighbors, their border is closed for a century, and with closed borders, you cannot solve your problems. And Mr. Pashinyan is really trying to show that we want to be good neighbors with Turkey. But unfortunately, Turkey believes they are a middle power. They have influence all over the region, and they can rule this region. But they have $1.3 trillion economy, and the Armenian economy is only $25 billion. That is why, relatively, we are not equal. So Mr. Pashinyan is trying to convince Turkish authorities that he is ready for a peace, and he's ready to talk about the past, and he's ready to just work on the future, but he's ready to talk on the past. But of course, it is a very sensitive issue. I know it breaks so many Armenians' hearts. Maybe we need to be really very, very careful, because it is a very sensitive issue. Now, like Ranting said, you need to be on the knife's edge. If you fall on this side, you might break Armenians' heart. If you fall on the other side, you might break Turks' heart. So it is a very hard issue. I know this very well. Sometimes some Armenians criticize me, or some Turks criticize me about this sentence or that word. So Mr. Pashinyan's job is very hard, but Armenia is at stake. We need to push this peace deal to happen, this reconciliation process to start between Turkey and Armenia. But for this, first we need to open the border and start to engage. We shouldn't put all the burden on one man's shoulder. We all need to take responsibility. Of course, we are biased as Armenians, but Turks are biased as well. What should we do? We need to engage to this biased thoughts and this enmity.
Does the average citizen have anything to do when it comes to normalization?
Of course, all of us have responsibility. Let's think, and as Armenians, our borders are closed. Is this beneficial for us to keep these borders closed? Because we are so much dependent on Russia. Even for the wheat, I heard that Armenia is almost 100% dependent on Russia. For gas, 80% dependent to Russia.
But the opponents of opening borders with Turkey are scared of Turkish expansionism, so to speak. Would you dwell on the economic aspect of the question? What happens when Turkey starts to interact with a smaller state?
The border is already open. The goods come over Georgia, and it makes them only more expensive for the Armenian people. If something is cheaper somewhere, it comes to your market somehow, some way. But we have strong muscles as well. We have this service sector. We have the IT sector. We have so much to sell to Turkey. We have the brains. They have the grain. Grain is so much cheaper than brains, so of course. Our IT sector will have a market which is with 85 million people. Or even we make peace with Azerbaijan, we will have another market which is for 10 million people. Of course, they will sell us energy, which is going to mitigate the dependency to Russia about energy, and we will buy grains. In return of, we will sell service sector. Because let's say millions of tourists are going to come from Turkey, believe me. And Armenia is having only 2 million tourists. Only from Turkey we can have 2 million tourists every year, and it's going to boost our service sector, tourism sector by all means. And I'm sure it is going to double Armenian GDP, because there were fears in the 1990s. If we open the border to the European market, Turkish economy will collapse. I thought the opposite, and Turkish economy just tripled, even 5 times bigger. Because we opened our market to the European market, our Turkish economy standard became European standards. I think same thing will work for Armenia as well.
And last but not least, do you feel more comfortable in the shoes of the scholar, or did you feel more comfortable in the shoes of the member of Turkish parliament, Armenian by origin?
As you know, I struggled in Turkey for decades to make Turkey as a democracy, because I believed only a democratic Turkey can recognize the Armenian genocide, and only a democratic Turkey can open the borders and have better relations with Armenia. But unfortunately, for the last 10 years, even Turkish democracy is in a very terrible situation. And Turkish parliament has no power at all. That's why I didn't want to run again to the Turkish parliament. And I left my country and moved to Washington, D.C. I believe that I can be more beneficial there to convince the U.S. administrations to put their way on this peace deal and normalization processes between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. And I feel so much beneficial there. Now I am playing a non-partisan role. As you know, I was opposing Erdogan in Turkey, in the Turkish parliament. Now, of course, opposing doesn't mean that you are enemies of the government. No, I have still good friends in the Turkish government and the ruling party and the opposition parties as well. They all know I am playing a non-partisan role, and I will try to do so until we get a durable peace in the South Caucasus. And this requires, of course, US and EU to put really pressure on Erdogan and Aliyev, not only pressure, to incentivize this peace. And if we can really convince this administration in Washington, D.C. together, I'm urging all the Armenians living in Armenia, in USA, who has no influence over Mr. Trump or his team. This is really crucial. All the artists, entrepreneurs can take responsibility about it. So I'm urging all the Armenians who has good relations with the Republicans, with Mr. Trump, Mr. Rubio, with the Republican senators, or even the Democrat senators, to really put pressure on them, because territorial integrity is no longer a sacrosanct. Mr. Trump is vocal about Panama, Greenland, even Canada. And I'm sure Mr. Aliyev is eyeing this. So this is a huge threat for Armenia. Mr. Aliyev can say, what about, why not me? Why don't I Sunni as well? So we have to deter this coming threat, and we have to tell Mr. Trump that you need to show a red line, or not only a red line, you need to convince Mr. Erdogan and Aliyev to sign this deal and make let this happen to be a durable peace.
Thank you for this opportunity
Thank you.
one more time.